Okay, so I'm finally getting around to doing the build with the HGLRC XJB F428 stack. I did a pretty thorough overview of this. I'll try and put a card up in the top. So this is going to be the build with this little 20x20 stack. I'm going to be using the Race Day Quads 2205, 2450 kV motors, and that's pretty much it. I've just got this tiny little VTX. I'm going to try and go for a sort of ultralight build here. Just going to need a few other things like your receiver and battery leads. This doesn't come with any battery leads, so I hope I'll be able to get that on there. And the new versions of these come with a capacitor, so I think I'm just going to throw one of those on there, and I'm going to add a beeper, and that's pretty much it. So let's get started. I'm going to try and run through this build as quick as possible. I want to get it done and start testing it. I've got a bunch more projects lined up. I got some budget 32-bit ESCs that I want to try out, so let's get through this as quick as I can, get it tested, and see how it goes. We're going to go from this to this. Let's get this stack opened up and see how it's going to go on the frame. This frame weighs about 60 grams, and with the stack I've got about 69 grams, so pretty light. So I'm just trying to get an idea where the flight controller is going to sit, and I'm already noticing sort of a problem. Now you've got the USB port on one side, the battery leads on the other side, and the motor wires on the opposite sides. So either you're going to have to power it from one side, use the USB from the other side, and have the motor wires coming straight up to the ends, or you're going to have the USB blocked by the camera. There's really no way you can put it like this and have the battery leads coming from where the camera is. So what I'm going to do is probably put it this way, USB port on this side, battery leads on this side, and with this frame here, they have this special spot where you run a pigtail and stick the antenna straight up, but I'm probably not going to be using that, and even if I did, probably wouldn't be a big problem to move it out of the way and just access the USB port. And another thing that I'm noticing is with this frame, you've got to use M2 screws with this stack. This frame is pretty much intended for M3 screws. Now, I had M3 screws on the 20x20 mounting platform, and I just moved them because with this frame, you've got 3 screws holding the arms in. The third screw is actually where the stack is. So with that screw, I just put it on the 30x30 because I'm not going to be using them. It's just going to help the arms hold in better. So now that I think I have the layout, I'm going to get started with the soldering. So there seems to be a lot of confusion about how to wire the buzzer on this, and what I'm going to do is wire the buzzer negative onto the BB pad and the buzzer positive onto the 5-volt pad. Now I'm going to get ready to add my receiver. I'm going to be using S-Bus, so I'm going to be soldering to the 5-volt, ground, and S-Bus pads. So I'm going to get those tinned right now. Now I'm using a different connector for my receiver, so don't pay attention to the color of these wires. So that's it. Receiver is in, beeper is in, power lead's on, capacitor on. I think next it's the camera. This is the VTX I'm using. It's the little teeny Eachine VTX03. I have the little camera wired in. It's just a really ultralight little camera that I have mounted on this little holder here. I have the camera wired in. It's going to be powered by the VTX. I've heard a lot of people say that if you have a VTX that can power your camera, always do that. And I've heard people say that you should power everything from the same source. I've tried both ways. I've had good and bad results both ways. This one's already set up to be powered from the VTX. It's already wired, so all I'm going to have to do is wire the power for the VTX. I'm going to add the camera from the camera onto the cam pad. I'm going to add the power for the VTX onto the 5-volt and ground pad, and I'm going to put the video wire from the VTX onto the VTX pad. And that's it. If you have this little VTX with this IPEX connector, here's a little trick. Sometimes this connector will kind of get loose and it will make your signal kind of lousy. So here's a little trick. I'm actually going to change this whip antenna to a little IPEX cloverleaf antenna. Got this from Race Day Quads. I'm pretty sure I got all of this stuff from Race Day Quads, so if you've never used them, check them out. They got awesome stuff, good prices, really fast shipping, so
give me free stuff.
Here's what I'm going to do. Got a piece of heat shrink. I'm going to take the heat shrink, put it down the antenna. We're going to snap on the connector, slide the heat shrink down, and shrink it on there nice and tight. So we're going to have a good snug fit here, and you're not going to lose any signal from moving around or twisting or coming loose. So that's pretty much it. So there it is. Connector is on nice and tight. Looks good, not going anywhere. And you don't have to worry about the antenna popping off or losing your signal. So there it is. So that's pretty much it. I think I'm done. I feel like I'm forgetting something. That was so easy. That was probably the quickest that I've ever put one of these together. I got the VTX, the camera, battery leads, capacitor, receiver, beeper. Everything's done. I feel like I just breezed right through that. I don't know if I'm forgetting something. All I need to do is just wire the motors on. So let's start doing that. Alright, so these are the Race Day Quad motors, the 2205, 2450 kV. They're naked bottom, really nice motors. Just one thing I wanted to make you aware of when you're using this stack is it has a fixed orientation, and what I mean by that is it locks in with these pins, so you have to pay attention to which way your wires are going. So if you want the camera wires going towards the front, you might need to reorganize where you want the ESCs to sit, because wherever you put that, this has to go on it the exact way that it's meant to. So make sure you plan it out, I guess, onto the motor wires. All the pads are tinned up. Now I'm just going to tin the motor wires. I stripped them pretty short because looks like it's going to be kind of tough to solder onto this board. There's a lot of stuff packed in there and it's pretty tight, and there's a lot of things really close to these motor pads. Stuff that you don't want to get solder on. If you can, you should always have the motor wires, or any wires, pointing down when you're tinning them so the solder doesn't run down into the wires. I always solder my motor wires straight up. It looks neater, and why not? I'm also going to turn up the iron. I have it just under 450, I guess. These pads and these pads are kind of tricky, and this board you can solder to the bottom, and the bottom is not like that, but it'd be kind of tricky unless I took the motors off. So I'm just going to try to be really careful. Strip these wires really short, so we'll see how it goes. Also, the way that I'm soldering is not helping. I usually try to go the other direction. I don't know why I didn't do that. Okay, that's it. All the soldering done. Just gotta fit the stack together, button it up, and we're good to go. So here it is, the finished product. That didn't take very long at all. I am curious how much it weighs. I haven't weighed it yet. Let's make sure I'm getting all of this on the scale. Okay, so looks like 229 grams. This thing should rip. So that's it. Thanks for watching.